Warmind is the latest expansion for Destiny 2 that focuses on Mars. You've got a new character, Anna Bray, and she takes you on a journey that sees you find the Warmind Rasputin. However, Anna Bray, much like every other character in this expansion, is basically pointless, and there's really no need for them to be there because they don't really do a whole lot. Anna Bray shows up at the beginning of the game with a huge and interesting cutscene that really makes you think she's going to be a main focus and part of the story. However, she basically just disappears, only to pop up magically at different points in the story. It's honestly an entirely forgettable story, and worse, it reuses a ton of assets from the base game, just adding snow onto them. There's buildings and areas that are basically just ripped out of the original game with slight modifications like snow and ice crystals forming. It's dull and lazy. And worst of all, there's a level that you replay backwards. They couldn't even be bothered to make a whole new level. You replay the same level backwards. They just took the same assets, turned you around so you went the other way, thinking you wouldn't notice. Though even though it does have a lot of rehashes, it does have some new content in the graphical department that does look fantastic, much like the rest of Destiny. Probably one of the best things of this expansion is that Mars is actually a fully realized and large planet, unlike Mercury from the Curse of Osiris. There's a lot of space, you can actually drive around on it, and there's multiple public quests and things to do on it. There's even a new type of public quest called the Escalation Prototype, which basically has you fighting Horde mode style against a bunch of enemies. However, it is ridiculously hard to take. Which leads me to the biggest problem of Warmind, which is that the leveling and progression has been completely 100% screwed up. For example, as you're progressing through the story, they went hardcore on the level gating requirements. So before, when you were playing Destiny 2's story, you'd hit certain roadblocks. You'd have to go do side missions or public quests to get enough level to progress with the story. They do the same thing in this expansion. However, there's points where your weapons literally do no damage unless you hit a certain power level and level, which can be really frustrating because things like public quests that you could just join as a new player are also locked out. You don't do any damage. It's just a dumb and frustrating way. And then they pushed the things like heroic strikes way up in difficulty, but didn't give them appropriate rewards. And it's also not very easy to find a way to get to the heroic strike level and power level because the reward system is completely screwed up. Now, they added 2 new strikes. Unfortunately, the third one, much like the crap they pulled in the beginning game, is locked to PlayStation players. So on PC, all we get is 2 strikes that are quite literally just story missions ripped out and repurposed and regurgitated. Boring. Now, much like Curse of Osiris, Warmind just feels very shallow. There's not enough to do, and it doesn't feel worth the $20 cost of admission. The regurgitated strikes, the 2 to 3 hour long campaign, you've got a couple public quests and things to do, but honestly, there's just not enough here to really warrant returning to the game. Now, I do think this expansion is better than Curse of Osiris, and so I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 10, because I do think it is slightly better. It's an improvement. It has more content and things to do, but it just doesn't have enough to do to warrant $20 or a recommendation from me. If you love Destiny, if you just really want more content, then sure, you're probably going to like this. It's just a little bit more to do, but it just doesn't really add anything of value for the average person to really return to Destiny 2 over.